we're staying on that partnership conversation, and I've got two guests with me right now that I'd like to introduce. Giles Adams, you're CEO of VQ Communications.
That's correct.
You guys specialize in sovereign video conferencing. We'll talk more about what that is in just a moment to make sure there's no confusion. But then also, just to make sure we don't leave him to Johan, it's nice to see you again. It's been a while.
Thank you so much for having us, Rob.
Tell me your title, Johan. You're with Cisco.
Senior Director in Collaboration, so I take care of the solution engineers for Europe, Middle East, and Africa.
Okay, well, perfect. Well, I want to talk about the relationship a little bit because, well, for one, if anyone's not familiar, first, Giles, VQ Communications provides sovereign video conferencing. How do you define what that is?
It's a really good question, Rob. So the reality is that when people are looking at the communications and deciding how secure they want them, when you look at the ultimate definition of that, we're talking about delivering services in an air-gapped environment. Okay. So that could be a government that wants to protect its nation's secrets. It could be a banking and finance organization that's potentially having conversations that could move the market. And our platform, our software, complements the great platform that Cisco has in Cisco Meeting Server to allow people to build, configure, manage, and run those sorts of services at significant scale.
Yeah, you and Cisco have been in partnership, the company have been in partnership, you too, but in partnership for quite some time. This is not new, and you guys are quite experts in this space on Cisco equipment, correct?
Correct, yeah. So VQ's company is now nearly 20 years old. We've had a direct and exclusive relationship with Cisco for nearly 5.5 years. And so we have a lot of experience, we've made a lot of mistakes, and to your point about video conferencing being around for quite a while, we've seen a lot of things come and go, but the reality is people have an expectation that the service is consistent and reliable, and with the partnership with Cisco, we've got the best infrastructure, the best video devices that we can on a global basis.
Well, and normally, of course, we think about high-risk networks. We talk about air gap. We're talking about situations where communication is life and death. It's things that have been deemed so important. It's not just military. It's not just nation state and such. And Johan, I'm curious, the partnership with VQ, how important is it to Cisco? How is it continued? What does it mean to Cisco to have partners that can do things actually that other partners really aren't even doing?
Well, first of all, let's take a look at what we're looking at, right? So we have a whole range, a whole portfolio. We have cloud, we have purely air-gapped, and they're really at the end of the spectrum of each other. So that means that we have to have something in between as well. Certainly nowadays, we got a lot of demand for AI. AI requires, or sort of like implies big data, implies the cloud to some people. So we need to make sure that we've got solutions that cover all of these areas. I typically refer to it as the path to sovereignty. Sovereignty by itself is not easy to obtain. Yeah. Obviously, there's a lot of sovereignty washing out there. Sometimes there's different definitions. You know, what do you mean by sovereignty? Is it data residency, having the data in a certain location? Is it having support by sovereign people that like classify as sovereign or have national clearance or stuff like that? So to your point, or to your question, Rob, for us it's crucial to have a really great user experience that you can offer across a whole portfolio, be it in the cloud, be it in a hybrid solution, be it on-prem. And remember, on-prem or air-gapped in this case, it doesn't update as many times as we do it in the cloud.
Yeah, for sure.
Many people do not know, but we actually update many of these microservices that run in the cloud multiple times per day. There's like hundreds of microservices. For air-gapped and on-prem solutions, you know, the frequency is a lot lower. So you need to make sure that the user experience kind of like is the same. You need to make sure that you've got really sound, robust systems that users know how to use, so they can actually shift from something which is less sensitive, like cloud, okay to use cloud, onto on-premise. And then in the extreme case, of course, we go to air-gapped solutions, typically for use in the military, healthcare, you know, whatever is sensitive and where people really want to take and keep control.
Well, the sovereignty washing, as you called it, because we've seen this, it seems like every commercial that we see is someone's announcing a sovereign solution, and boy, you just can't buy it at face value, you really have to dig in. But I think it has forced some good conversations with customers in the ability to say, do you even know where your data is? Where is it being processed? Where is it controlled? Because none of those answers are bad, it's just a matter of understanding so that you can make decisions that are appropriate for your particular risk environment, is kind of the way I would look at it. So you need options. You're nodding yes. Go on.
Yeah, absolutely yes. And I think in the end it boils down to risk. Risk assessment, like, what's the type of data we're talking about, and what's the risk, that I don't have this control. And this is why we introduce control points. You can have cryptographic control points, like I manage the keys. You can have role-based access, like who can access the data. Sometimes in certain situations, typically for air-gapped solutions, knowing that a meeting exists kind of like could be influencing the world economy.
Yeah.
So that's typically where air-gapped, and again, coming back to your previous question, this is where the partnership of Cisco and VQ plays so nicely, very complementary, really focused on user experience and making sure that people make use of the systems in a very intuitive and very seamless way.
Yeah, I think the usability experience is really where we start from, because if you've gone through that analysis of where is your trust and where do you want your communications to be, when you come to where we are in these air-gapped environments, then you've already made those decisions about how you want it to be deployed. But the next thing that you have to solve is how are the users going to be able to access that service? So not everybody has the ability to go into a conference room that may be securely screened. They may be on a laptop in a government building somewhere, but they need to have the same sort of user experience. And when you and I were talking a few minutes ago before we came into the studio here, we talked about the fact that some people have got iPhones and other people have got Android, and it's largely the same thing, but the reality is if you go from one to the other, it's quite tricky to relearn. So that friction is something that our UI and UX people spend a lot of time trying to figure out, because actually the content of the conversation is more important than actually having to remember to press certain buttons in certain sequences. And so it's really critical that we actually spend a lot of time at the front end. And to Johan's point about AI being, the topic that is in everybody's conversation here at Cisco Live, Cisco's been doing a lot of work in what's called the AI pod, which allows us to take some of that AI functionality and bring it into these environments so that from a user's perspective, we'll be able to start to deliver the things that we expect and see from WebEx, like meeting summaries, transcription, closed caption, all of those sorts of things that you just kind of come and say, that's table stakes in a cloud-based service, but I want the same experience for my users when I'm in these air-gapped environments. So it's a really exciting time, and certainly that partnership with Cisco is allowing us to take those sorts of innovations that only an organization with Cisco's investments can actually look at and deliver, and then put them together in a package and deliver those to our customers. Super time.
Yeah. And I love having the options available. I don't want to mischaracterize anything, but I kind of feel like the digital sovereignty when it comes to video conferencing specifically maybe hasn't gotten enough attention. I'm just curious how you guys have seen this market, and are you seeing a shift now into more than your normal customer base potentially saying, wow, we need your help in doing this?
Yeah, I mean, I think Johan ought to chip in from his perspective, because my business covers customers around the globe. What we are seeing, and perhaps Johan can add some data to this, is that in EMEA, this territory, Europe, Middle East, and Africa, specifically, there is a resurgent in interest in actually being 100% sure where your conferencing is going and who's looking at it. So whether you range from conferences that you regard to be less demanding in security, where you can just access a cloud-based WebEx, which is damn secure anyway with the encryption end-to-end and so on, through to a sovereign version of WebEx, through to an air-gapped. So this is a unique offering that Cisco has. There's no other vendor out there that can say, on that whole sort of curve, if you like, from lower risk through to super secure, that there is an offering all the way through there. And I think it's a really exciting time to be able to say that this is showing significant growth. And Cisco's putting a lot of energy behind that to make sure that we can keep up. AI pods being a good example of that. That's not a small market play for Cisco to go and do that.
No, there's been a huge architectural changes. Johan, you mind a final comment here, and we're going to go out to Amy, I believe, in just a moment. But yeah, I want to hear.
No, I want to make sure that the EMEA market is the market that I'm covering. EMEA acronym, Europe, Middle East, and Africa. Now, there's different demands, different regulations even, you can imagine. We have a lot of acts coming out of Europe, and it keeps on coming. So it sometimes is a bit of a challenge, not only for vendors, but also for customers to keep up. Digital Market Act, the AI Act, and whatnot. So we need to make sure that we classify, that we find common points in between markets. We call these control points, and one of the control points that I mentioned is cryptographic control points, like where's your key? Can I manage my own key? If someone comes into Cisco and says, hey, we'd like to get all the customer data, we'd go like, well, we can give you encrypted data, but for the real content, you got to go to the customer.
Yeah.
And this is also where we see a little bit of overlap to some extent when governments say, hey, we have extraterritorial application of our regulation, and sometimes there's a bit of an overlap. So it kind of like leads to some friction. And of course the solution is, well, let's go and give full control to our customers, and then we typically end up with air gapped when there is nothing to give because we don't have anything.
Yep.
Well, what I appreciate is the calmness. I believe there are options here. It's easy to overreact and think that we need to go to some extreme, but the point is that there are options for being able to reduce risk that's appropriate for wherever you need to go. So I want to end this up here in just a moment. Sorry, we get a little bit of a time change. I've got 30 seconds left, but Giles, I'm curious, what's next for you guys? What do you hope to see happen over the next year when we meet again, hopefully, at the next Cisco Live? Things are picking up pace. What do you see in store?
So for us, what's next? I mean, like any software engineering organization, we've got a stream of innovation coming down to improve the meeting experience, to talk about observability, to talk about the integration of AI. But on top of that, what's next is really, it's growth, it's delivering scale, it's delivering the reliability that Cisco's come to expect from us, and that's keeping us pretty busy.
That is awesome. I appreciate that. We're going to have to run because we got to go to the center stage, I believe, is where we're going to be going to next. We've got Secure Campus. Look at my notes here. Yeah, Secure Campus Blueprint for faster operations. Another jam-packed day as we've got going on here. I'm having so much fun. I hope you are as well. Please enjoy center stage, and we'll see you back here right afterwards.